Hey Ian, you ready?
You bet I am. What are we talking about tonight? And talk about guns?
If it's not a 30 cal, I'm not in.
Jeez, mate, that's not very inclusive. Have you seen Jono?
Hey Jono, you ready?
Well, God knows where he is, mate. He's probably caught up in the neighbour's wire again. You ready to go? Let's do this.
Mate, I'm ready. Let's crank it up.
Righto then. Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of the Hunters Campfire, where we're going to talk about all things hunting and the great outdoors. And we'll probably throw in a few tips along the way.
You want a tip? Say it once, say it 1,000 times. Goats love rocks.
Or a few things about deer. Mark, what do you reckon about deer?
As a deer hunter, I love hunting pigs.
Well, that's about as useful as I expected it to be. Oh, check it out. Here comes Jono. He's being chased by the neighbour's dog.
Okay guys, let's get this started. Welcome to the Hunters Campfire. Pull up a chair, get comfortable. It's time for the Hunters Campfire.
Welcome back to the Hunters Campfire podcast, coming to you from a bleary-eyed early morning Queensland, nearly hunt season morning. Anyway, how you going, fellas? Let's just quick intro to the usual suspects again. Jono and Mark, how are we this morning? Managed to make
Bleary-eyed.
it?
Got the coffee instead of the beer today, so it's a bit early for it.
I went the jumbo mug this morning.
No.
It's not that we need to stay awake, Chelsey, but you know it is early. So very good.
Still a bit warm, though hunt season's coming on. The humidity's still up, so I just checked. It's not cool by any means yet, but it's getting there, and a bit bleary-eyed. So, and I'm drinking water because I can't drink coffee straight up.
Good. Well, never mind. You probably got a time that you don't start drinking beers either, too. But we'll go. That's all right. Hey, there's a reason for the early morning. Welcoming to the podcast today is Chelsey from Avenza Maps or Avenza. What is Avenza Maps or Avenza something else?
The application is called Avenza Maps, and the company is Avenza Systems.
That's right.
There we go.
Something slightly different. So, welcome to the podcast, all the way
Thank
over.
you.
If you haven't picked the accent, we're talking to Chelsey from Canada this morning. So late in the day for you. We really appreciate you joining us. We've been looking
Absolutely, no problem. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
So what time is it where you are, Chelsey?
Just after 4:00 Eastern.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
So
Not too bad.
it's school pickup time. So I'll jump the whole day. That'll be great.
Yeah. Well, as
We're in the
we've
future,
talked about-
remember?
Just fast forward. Yeah, I'm in the past, right?
Yeah.
Still Thursday, so I'll be preparing
Yes,
myself
yes.
for tears.
Oh, easy. Don't talk about the future yet. So the really exciting thing for us with this conversation is that we reached out to Chelsey and the team at Avenza just to get a conversation together about the product that hunters and others in Australia use so fondly as we head out into the bush. It's a product that almost all state forest hunters, if not all state forest hunters, which over here, Chelsey, are our public land hunters in the state of New South Wales, we all get directed towards the Avenza Map product to help us get out into the bush and to follow the regulations that we need to and make sure that boundaries and all of those sorts of things are adhered to. So I just thought it was a great idea to reach out, have a conversation with you about the product and where it came from, and all of the different things that we may not know about, including some of the really cool stuff that's in the pro features. So before we get into that, I'd love to hear a little bit about your story at Avenza and what drew you to the company and maybe some of the history of the company, if that's appropriate.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I personally have been with Avenza for about 4 years now. I'm the marketing manager here. And so I get the fun job of getting to tell the stories of all of the users and sharing those stories, whether it's through social or paid advertising, the website, all of that kind of falls under my domain. And Avenza as a company, it started about 30 years ago. So it's not new. But Avenza Systems originally started out as a cartography software company. And and we still have our desktop software. What the desktop software does is it allows cartographers to use Photoshop, Adobe Photoshop or an Adobe Illustrator, while still maintaining geographical referencing and a lot of other data analysis capabilities. So basically giving map makers the ability to just make their maps directly in the Adobe software that they were transitioning to make their maps at the early kind of 90s. And once we helped people make maps on computers and make these digital PDFs that were geo-referenced, then the next kind of questions for the map makers became, so does this mean that paper maps are going to go away? Because at this point, all of these map makers were using the software to still produce physical paper maps. So that's where the idea originally for the Avenza Maps app came from, was we wanted users to be able to easily use the maps themselves on their devices, and also give the cartographers a marketplace where they could sell or just distribute their maps. So the app kind of became twofold. One side of it is for the users, and the other side of it is for map makers, cartographers. So the Avenza Map Store, which, being that you're using the maps specifically from your region, you may not dip into the map store as much. But the map store has over 1 million maps from all over the world. It is the largest collection of digital maps in the world, only to be beat out by the Library of Congress in physical paper maps. But we are super, super proud of that. And our team is constantly scouring the world for new cartographers who are making maps of underdeveloped regions that have never been mapped before, or cartographers that are doing extremely, extremely specific maps of a hunting area with really specific landings of where they can put their rafts in, all kinds of things. So this has really kind of evolved and become a lot bigger than it originally started out to be. But that, I think, has been one of the funnest parts of being a part of the team at Avenza, is we do reach a really, really wide range of users. And I know your folks are really familiar coming at Avenza from a hunting perspective, but originally some of our biggest partners were actually firefighters, search and rescue, those kind of folks. They had maps already that they had built themselves, and they wanted a way to easily distribute it amongst their teams. A lot of fire and search and rescue do not use other people's maps. They'll only use their own maps that are verified. So lots of different branches of things, but that's kind of the whole long and short of.
Wow,
That's a pretty
did
incredible
not know
number.
any of that. Did not know any. Because
well, you
for
don't,
us,
do you? You don't. You grab the free app and off you go, Mark, don't you?
Yeah.
And we get our maps from DPI, and that's it. We don't actually explore into the store or anything. I'm in there now, and it's amazing. There's just maps of everything.
So while we know Avenza, we know it from I suppose from a very low level.
Very narrow focused.
We're required to have those maps, and DPI just steered us towards Avenza. And so
it's
it
perfect,
became a, but it was like of convenience, as it were. Especially as they wanted more, as more and more people asked, well, why can't I use my phone? Why do I need to buy a dedicated GPS? So
absolutely,
it's really quite knew none of that at all. There you go. Yeah. And like in the DPI, there's 3 levels of the free app that you can download. So in terms of not accuracy, but I suppose information that it has. So I've always put the highest one on there, but I didn't know any about that at all. That's really, really quite amazing.
The capabilities of the tool are really amazing. It's something that functions super, super well and is really easy to understand for a very basic user. And we have entire companies of forestry teams working on Avenza using the maps in the app. So it kind of stretches a really broad range.
Yeah, we
I'm just looking now. Scottish Borderlands is the first one that jumped up.
That's the first one that comes up. Yeah.
a conversation that we had leading up to this podcast morning. You talked to us about the map store, and we knew that there was a map store there, but because we get given the maps that we have to use,
Yes.
diving into that, we don't really spend a lot of time in there. But you spoke to us about the App Store and how people were able to load their maps up there and distribute them. So we hopped off this call. So there's a good news story for you. We hopped off this call and spoke to our good friend Rob at Athena Spatial, who was working with us on some maps. He jumped straight over to Avenza, signed up, and he published maps within a week for the community.
Oh, that's so
to start.
awesome.
He's up there now. He's up there now. It's such a great story.
Yeah.
And he's not
That's
replacing.
exactly what we want to hear.
Yeah, he's not replacing the maps we have to use. He's providing a really, really high definition view that we can use, to supplement what we don't get. I mean, DPI basically publish it at a low at a resolution that's good enough, but it's just to tell you where the boundaries and where not to go. They're not putting it up there for anything else. So this is a really interesting story and journey for us. We're going on. We're helping Rob launch his product. Well, he's launched it himself, but we've been giving him some advice about what we might want to use, and just the ease of getting those maps up there so quickly, I think, was super impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ease from the publisher perspective is really important, right? We have a lot of national parks here in Canada and the US that have chosen to distribute their PDF referenced maps through our store. So again, it needs to be simple. It needs to be easy for everyone to use. And every single map that is uploaded is geo-referenced and verified by our team. So you know that the map is at least going to be accurate. We can't always guarantee quality, although we do review that, but the accuracy 100%. We always make sure everything is geo-referenced properly so that you can be confident that if it says that this is where you are on the map, that is where you actually are.
With the maps, is there like a limit to the area? So could you get an Avenza map that could be your navigation map for a city or even a country?
Yeah, absolutely. You could. So just like any other map, different scales of maps, the beauty with this is you can kind of go in and out. What is going to change is really going to be the amount of space it takes up on your device.
Yep.
So if you want to have a map of the whole world, sure, you can. Just might be a couple gigs.
Okay.
But
these days, a
the
couple
maps-
of gigs is not a lot, is
Yeah,
it?
that's right.
it doesn't
That's
even feel like a lot.
That's right.
No.
Yeah, I've got $10 worth of memory cards on my desk, and there's about 100 gigs in there, so it's amazing nowadays. So yeah.
But yeah, the only restriction is really how much space you have on the device or how much space you want to allocate to maps. But there really isn't a limit of how many you can have downloaded or how many you could purchase. We have some people that just like collecting them. So as they travel, they'll collect them and they'll just keep them in their app because they will use it for memories. A lot of people have started doing memory maps, so geo-referencing the pictures so that you can go back to the same place in 25 years on your honeymoon and, take the same picture kind of stuff.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
I've just seen there's an Australia touring map. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, and if you look in the store, you can filter by activity. So there's off-roading, there's hunting, there's all sorts. Yeah.
Wow.
There is
Yeah,
extra
the publishers can dictate specifically what activities they think their maps are good for. So yeah, if you're making a hunting map, make it a hunting activity.
So what's the big difference then between the free to use app and jumping into the purchased app?
Yeah, so the Plus and Pro models are really designed for people who are using it on a very consistent basis. And they're using it for a lot of things and maybe not so much what your target audience is for. I imagine most of your folks are going to be fine with the free. You're downloading the map, you're watching where your geo-reference is to make sure that you're in the right place. When you start to get into the Plus and Pro, one of the biggest differences is the amount of custom maps that you can actually have. So the maps that you guys either are getting from DPI or you're downloading off the map store, those are maps that are not necessarily custom. They're coming from the map store, you're just downloading them. But if you actually wanted to build your own map, you could upload it directly to the app without ever putting it in the map store. You can collect all your information. You can save it to that map. You can export it to open it on a desktop in like a Photoshop or an Illustrator if you want to work on it that way, or analyze whatever data is. But it doesn't go onto the map store at all. So once you start to get into Plus and Pro, so again, this is more for if you were running a company and you had specific maps that you and your team were working on and you're monitoring all that, and you might not want that in a cloud anywhere. It's secure data. You want it kept private. That might be what you were looking for with the Pro users. The Plus users have a few less. So the Pro users have unlimited uploading of custom maps. Pro users have, I believe, up to 5 custom maps. So you can upload 5 separate custom maps. For most users, they're using what's coming from the store. And so that's not going to qualify as a custom map, and you can have as many of those as you want.
So right there is something that we would not have known. Right, so we talked about the DPI map. The DPI map may publish that with you, I'm not sure, but we upload it ourselves. We download the map.
So it is.
We download the map from the DPI site and hit the share button and go to Avenza and upload it that way. So it would be classified as a custom
map.
That is going to look as a custom, yeah.
Right.
So I'm going to reach out to them and make sure that they get their maps in the map store.
Don't get us in trouble. Don't get us in trouble.
No, this is good.
No.
That's right.
All good.
But what I'm hearing is if they publish their maps on the web store for free, and we access them that way, that we solve one of the problems that we have, and that is that we can only have 3 live maps at a time.
You could have unlimited if they were downloading them. Yeah.
Yeah, didn't know that.
Yeah.
Because we want to encourage people to put them on the store.
I'll upload them for you.
Yeah.
That's the challenge. You can't actually use it at the moment. We are limited to 3, though it does allow you to kind of store the other ones on your device because they're custom, and then
in the app.
So you it's to explain, if you have a permit to hunt in a particular forest, you can have 2 forests at once, so you can have adjoining forests. So and then but you might want to hunt over a longer period of time and move to different forests, so you need to have both the maps and the permit to do that. And the other challenge is, this is one I found, this is where I had hit that issue with the custom maps, is I was hunting when the maps were changing over. So I was hunting one on every quarter they changed. So I had to have I had the current quarter, and then I had to have the new quarter, because we were hunting, 30th of June, 1st of July. So I actually had to have maps for, as we say, the future, as well as the current maps. But all I did was it changed over. I got rid of the other maps, and then it allowed the new custom maps to be activated. But that's actually, having the ability to store more would make that a lot easier, and also for e-scouting,
absolutely,
and things like that. You could, it would just improve that greatly. You could see being in camp with your iPad or whatever it is, your tablet, and doing a bit more detailed e-scouting while there would be fantastic. Or even thinking, okay, guys, there's not much happening here. Where we want to go, and doing a bit of forward planning. Yeah.
Well, that's one. I'm sure there's lots more of these little things that we don't know about. Carry on, Chelsey. What else we got?
One of the other big things is the export formats. So again, this isn't something that your average recreational user is really going to tap into, but if you're doing cartography work, you may want to export the data that's collected or the maps in very specific formats. So some of those formats are limited to Plus and Pro. So if you want to export it as a shape file, that's a feature that you have to have the Pro for. Not something too many recreational users are using it for. Mostly that's going to be a Plus and Pro feature. And that's really where a lot of the big differences lies in some of those really advanced tools, export formatting. That's kind of where the really differences for the Plus and Pro. The idea with Plus and Pro is it's meant to be used by really the professionals who are going to be taking it out and using it at teams of people. For individual everyday users, that's what the free version's for. And we like it that way. We want it to be something. We have a QR program that we're developing here in Ontario with our national parks. So getting them to put their maps onto our store, and then we have a QR code. So when people are going to the park, they see the QR code, they can scan it right away and they get the map. So we always want.
Oh,
Yeah.
Great idea.
Wouldn't that be great?
Look at you go.
DPI again. You just
You're
got to
the
go.
software development people.
We're
right.
testing it out here in Ontario, and now we'll take it to
Wow.
Australia next.
That's
But
it.
thinking about the future and how the next generation is going to be accessing public parks, public spaces. The idea of having the QR codes there, you scan, you get the map, the map is up to date, it's the right map. A lot of other programs for recreational hiking or biking or whatever, a lot of them will use data that's open sourced. And so it's collecting data from other users. Normally, if you're talking about a road situation, it's very, very structured and very much the same because the roads are there, the cars are going on the roads. So taking open source data for that isn't as risky. But what a lot of users have found is that open source data from people walking isn't as accurate because they're trails, but people can walk off a trail and people can go in a different direction. And so one of the issues that a lot of our park partners were having was this area is closed at this time of year. Right now we're doing maintenance, but this app and this open source data doesn't know that. And they have no way to push information to that source. So with the QR code program, they're able to control that map. So even though the QR code stays the same all season long, if they have a fall map or a winter map where there's maintenance going on in one area of the park and they want to make sure that their users know, stay out of this area, they can update that online and it's all automatically done. So the next users that go and scan that QR code, they're getting the winter map that now says this bridge is out of maintenance or under repair. And, eliminating paper waste and paper maps completely, parks and community areas is really a part of the goal too.
You can see the application for that with our DPI people updating exclusion zones when workers go in,
or fires,
or dog baiting areas, or all sorts. Wow.
And even having the you can almost see that, because obviously there's you got to have connectivity, but you think about Nundle, if the either the petrol station at Walker or at Nundle had the QR code there, it would be
update
a great
before you go in.
It also it would be a great local business driver. You just come in.
Yes, definitely.
Going to go to the petrol station, click this. Might as well do this while I'm here, type thing.
If I just go back to the custom versus App Store map, talking for a second there about unlimited maps that you can put into the free version off the Map Store. So again, I'm just working through in my head our own application for this. If I've now downloaded the DPI custom maps, because they've gone in, but I've downloaded our mate Athena Spatial's overlay map or his better high, that one's not going to impact. I'm going to be able to have his ones live plus my DPI ones because they don't. I can have a mixture there. There's many off the Map Store plus 3 customs.
Yep. And I believe you should be able to even layer them. And so you can see certain data and turn data on and off.
Trying it now.
So that you can do live stuff. I'm
unreal.
telling you guys, it's a really powerful tool. The more you get to learn about it.
Oh, we love it. You've just supercharged it.
That's it. And the funny thing is, I've had this on my phone for, well, the first time I saw it being used is when Jono was using it. Oh, sorry, I put my thumb up and that funny bubble things come up. Did you see that?
We're doing this.
I'll keep this close. The first time I saw it used was when Jono was using it when we were hunting Pilliga in 2000 and something. So one of the questions that is often asked is, how does it work when I can't get signal?
So your GPS should always be able to get some type of location tracking. But from my understanding, it will just use the last known location. If somehow you even lost GPS signal, it would tell you your last known location until it found signal again. But the GPS signal will always be accurate. So once you're off of cell signal, your phone naturally has a GPS in it. All smartphones, like today's day and age, they have a GPS in it. So our software just connects into that, reads the GPS signal, and then plots that on the PDF georeference map.
It definitely uses GPS, because if I'm in an area where there's no signal, I actually turn mine to airplane mode to stop searching for signals, the same battery, and it still works fine. So as long as you've got the map, you don't need internet. So if you're in camp, so if you're driving into the forest, just QR code, you scan it, get the map. After that, you don't need signal.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's the only thing. You'd have to put that QR code where you've got signal.
That's the Wi-Fi tree.
The Wi-Fi tree. But I'm thinking, the Nundles shop, they'd be pretty happy to have that there.
They would be.
But once you get it set up,
scan your code, carry on.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and because all of the data, if you are collecting data, whatever type of data you want to collect, you can do that without being on cellular, because all of the information will be stored in the actual file. So if you are off line, you can still add pictures, you can still take a place mark and make notes about it, and all of that will be saved to the file and there when you need it.
So I do that. I've got all of my layers that I've got for my different maps. So every time I go to an area, I add that layer in, and I can compare it from last year, etc. So I can say, there was a mark here, there was a rub here, I saw here. I've got that layer saved, and I can actually export that layer and then import it into into Google Earth, where I can actually overlay it onto the PDF map, and I can do. And that's how I did a lot of my scouting for the next year. Is actually using that data that I've collected. So it's a really powerful tool.
So I watch a lot of mostly US hunting, and they often promote Onyx.
Mm-hmm.
And, in a way, a lot of us are probably more brand aware of Onyx than we are of Avenza.
Definitely.
Everyone. So is there similarities, or is it a different what's
There
Avenza?
definitely are similarities.
Sure.
The main similarity, it's still a GPS-based location tracking service.
Mm-hmm.
So it is still using the GPS. I believe you might have to pay for the offline tracking or have like a subscription. But the biggest difference is how the maps are collected. So with Onyx, they're using open sourced maps, and they're overlaying boundaries and other information on top of that. All of the maps in our map store are being curated by cartographers and being geo-referenced specifically by our team. And so that's the biggest difference, is having a map versus just taking the open street source data with this overlaid. So that is the reason that makes a difference, is because of the timing. So if a map was created with boundaries 10 years ago and it hasn't been updated, that's not going to be really helpful for the hunters today, because those boundary lines may have changed. And I'm sure Onyx works very hard to keep the areas updated that are most popular for them. But that's when it becomes more of an issue, is if you live in an area where maybe they're not as focused, then you might not have really accurate coverage of your area. Whereas if you have a local hunter who's doing the cartography work already, they're going to maintain those maps. And a lot of the cartographers take a lot of pride in making sure that their maps are extremely accurate. They're out walking these trails every single day. Teams of people work on maps together in different communities. And sometimes those are just the most accurate maps, because those are the people that are there. Taking OpenStreetMap data is easier for sure, but it's not always going to give you the level of detail that you want, the level of accuracy that you want. And when you do have groups that are doing that work, I would rather trust them. Different parts of the world have different community groups, but like I said, they're the ones that are there walking those trails every day. So those are the ones who I want their information. And that's, I think, the biggest difference. They've definitely got some features that were, in our pipeline of things that we're working towards. We're always looking at what competitor apps are doing and what features they have. And with Avenza Maps, even though we've been around for over 10 years now, it still feels like a young product. Speaking to all of the different ranges of uses, when it comes to features development, that's when it becomes kind of thing. It's which features are we building next? Features for hikers, features for hunters, features for the commercial forestry unit. And recently the push has been much more in towards a recreational user, and recreational hunters kind of fall under that. So I think that's why maybe you've seen more of us more recently. But yeah, from the perspective of like a group like DPI, and they're trying to put out their maps, you can't really get those maps into Onyx because you don't have the capability to upload custom maps.
Onyx is North America and Canada only. They've only recently.
Yeah, I just more the fact that it's, for most people, it's a very, it's probably the more popular because we just see it advertised everywhere. Certainly.
Do you think, Mark, it's probably the more popular product that we see because we watch a lot of US and
that's it. I mean,
Canada-based hunting. It's not that it's popular here. You don't see it.
I don't think it exists here. I don't think it exists here.
They don't have maps there.
Most people who, if they, who are listening and want to anchor this in something, because they might be going, I don't know what you guys are talking about at all. They may have seen, the various shows that use Onyx, so they might give them an understanding of what we're talking about. Because we're luckily enough that even though we've realised we hardly know anything about it, we know something about it. I was just thinking, there's probably people listening who don't really. If you're hunting, for instance, if you've hunted private land up to now, you probably don't use Avenza.
Yeah.
I use Avenza on private land as well. So
but you were probably driven there by DPI. That's what I mean. If you didn't,
I would never
that's what I'm
known
thinking.
about Avenza without it.
We've probably got people who are listening to us who don't hunt public land, so probably don't have Avenza because they haven't had that initial push that we all got to get it. So
it's a good point. It's a really good point.
And that's the thing. But most people, you watch the big shows and they're using this thing called Onyx, and you go, oh, look, they're on their phone and they're doing this thing, and then they're saying the deer here, and then all of a sudden it's an elk on the ground. So it's just to give it. I was just thinking about the bridge.
I don't think it was that easy.
Yeah, well, no, it's that easy to film.
That easy.
It's easy. So, and the reason why that also explains the Avenza connection here, because DPI update boundaries every 3 months.
Yes.
So so again, that's helping fill in that picture. Oh, the reason why we're using that particular platform is we're always updating. I mean, I've got books here about the local trails here in Brisbane, and I don't know how out of date those things are. This kind of thing would be fantastic. You just go to the trailhead, especially in more urban areas where you always have signal, and you just go blink, and then you've just got you've got it right there. That's just fantastic.
Yeah. Grateful councils as well for like
I'm thinking like Bribie, on the beach at Bribie, or on the beach at Fraser. Somewhere like Fraser Island, where there may have been a change. So rather than going on Facebook and finding that site where the guy updates what's happened on Fraser Island, you can just go, oh, bang, don't go here, whatever it is.
Tracks washed out.
Yeah, big dingo safe in this area and things like that. It just would be a fantastic ability to have that.
There's a big market for it, really. One of the obvious one that comes to mind for me is the Bicentennial National Trail. So it's the trail that runs from the top of Australia to the bottom. So that's some, 4,000 kilometres or 3,000 kilometres or something like
huge.
That. And I did some work with them over one Christmas where I helped them digitally map using my Garmin device, just turning on tracking, and so that they had some sort of digital format to give to people that were on the trail. Because up until then, it was all published in a book with description. It was turn left at the burnt down tree type stuff. And that stuff gets out where the 3 cows are mingling in the corner of the paddock. That's where you can.
Remember, if you're heading south, you are going in the right direction.
The idea. But this sort of stuff, and I think we talk about it a lot. We talk about the transition of all of the multiple devices that we carry in our packs when we head out into the bush for periods of time is all now converging on the mobile phone. The mobile phone is becoming the source. Something I'm interested in your feedback on is how we help the user trust the phone, because at the moment, like our satellite navigation is coming to the phone. It can be used on the phone. We have our PLB, rescue devices used to be just a dumb box that you push the button, stick an aerial up, and hopefully the helicopters will come get you. Now it's expanded from that to phone-based applications where we can send messages and communicate with our rescuers and other people, things like that. Maps coming onto the phone's really good, but the general population, whilst they're getting used to Avenza, to Mark's point before, DPI drive it to you, you put it on your phone, you throw it in your pack because I'm now compliant. And that's probably where it started over here. Now
Definitely.
people are trusting it. The maps are getting better, the details getting better, and it's doing away with this expensive not to say that the phone's not more expensive than a Garmin device, probably at
You've got a phone already.
A phone. You've already got it, to your point.
Yeah.
How are you dealing with that? Because you're saying fire brigades and all of those sorts of people, they have to battery manage this stuff. How's that trust factor going in your market? How do you see it playing out?
Yeah, I think that the trust is definitely something that is really important. And I think that's one of the reasons why we've had such success with emergency responders and forestry and firefighters. Because they're able to control their own maps, they verify their maps. So what they're depending on us for is making sure that we're accurately putting that information on the map. And that's something that we've always excelled in, was the tech and the background, because we started with cartography and we were a cartography software company. The high level of detail and the extreme importance of mapping and knowing the details, that was something that came naturally to us. So when we first started to transition into digital, we understood that that was extremely important in keeping it that way. So we went after those markets first, and we were able to really target those markets because we had the tech to go with it and the extreme focus on the detail. And I think that's where the trust really came from. From there, with the map store, that was where we were able to get in with a lot of really big trusted brands, Michelin, National Geographic. So I think when a lot of users start to see brands like that in the map store, I think they start to understand that this is something that they can trust. And I think for the general user, I think one of the reasons that I trust it the most, and again, not to crap on open source software, but we don't collect all of your mapping stuff, and all of your information is actually kept on your device and your phone. And if it's going into any cloud, that's the cloud that you choose to put it into, and you're controlling Dropbox or iCloud or whatever it is. We're really about making sure that the tool is accurate and there for you to use, but we really don't need to use your information to continue to make money. So we're not trying to collect data from you for any of those reasons. And like I said, anything that you're collecting stays on your device and on your files. So you don't have to worry about that being shared or used for anything else. And yeah, that's, for me, that always gives me a little bit more peace of mind. Privacy is key.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Yeah.
Yeah, and I suppose one of the you mentioned it before, and I think it's a really good point, is that one of the benefits of the phone-based approach is that most people know how to operate their phone, at least to a level. I've owned various GPSs, and after I get about 4 layers in, that's where it kind of ends, in terms of usage, because there's so many functions on there that I have no need to use. So you tend to kind of draw it down to a few that you're going to use, whereas most people are more comfortable with their phone, and it's something that they use all the time. So that we've seen that has been a really good transition, because it's something they're familiar with.
Yeah. And the UX making it easy for users to just pick up Avenza maps and start using it right away. That's super important, making it very easy and simple. It's not meant to be complicated. It's meant to help people know where they are. Yeah.
See, there's my current database of bushwalking tracks around my place. It's a book that, I don't know, this is just the reprint. This is not the original, this is about the 10th reprint of it.
Get him to make a map and upload
it. It was probably printed in, it probably says on there something, there.
Scan them in, geo-reference them, you're good to go.
Something about Weeby Dragons here or something like that. a little cloud blowing and things like that. So yeah, having that on an Avenza system would be fantastic.
If you do have old maps, you can get them pretty easily geo-referenced using the map publisher geographic imager tools. So there are people who actually have found really
what now?
Yeah.
You what?
Yeah. So the desktop software. But yeah, some users have actually taken really historical maps and geo-referenced them so that they can go back and find like a historic area that was used for whatever. And yeah, but it's pretty cool to check out on the map store. There's an entire category of historical maps. It's interesting.
So if I have old maps that aren't geo-referenced, be it paper or digital, a scanned copy of a map, for example, they can be uploaded into the system and your tools can help us geo-reference them. You'd have to get that right somehow.
Yeah, you'd have to use the desktop software to do it. But yeah, absolutely. That's basically one of the main features of the desktop software is to help geo-reference. So if you scan in an image and we do a training activity with our teams when they start for the non-cartography team members. This is a very, very simple exercise. But basically you take a map of Canada and you have to geo-reference it. And so we will plot 3 or 4 major cities across the country and your map will be geo-referenced. And then you can put it on your phone and you can open your phone and say, hey, there I am. I'm on the map.
Can I offer you a new training exercise and maybe you could remap my neighborhood next time? That'd be great. Don't worry about Canada. You've done it.
About 40. Yeah, Marcus sent me about 40 of his old hunting maps. He said, do you want these things? And literally tubes arrived in the mail with all these hunting. There is hunting maps of Queensland and Northern Territory. He sent them to me. He said, I don't use them anymore. So I've got them in the garage. I think at least I can put them on the data.
Yeah, I wonder if they would use any of that information to track like animal migrations or animal like movement patterns or anything. It would be interesting.
He would have personally, but no, I don't think that you'll find those on most sites. But yeah, so because these were just simply his hunting maps, and they're often mostly of private land. So he sent them to me, and I've actually trying to figure out how to store them. I think you've just answered the question for me.
As long as you have a big enough scanner. I don't know how big the maps are.
Oh, they're That was the other thing. You need a big scanner. We know someone with it. We probably know someone with a big scanner.
I want to go back again. We're jumping all over the place here, but you're taking us in some cool directions, so it's fun.
Absolutely.
Plus and Pro. You mentioned Plus and Pro. That tells me there's 2 versions there. Can you give us the basics of what you get in the Plus and the Pro? What's the next layer up from Basic? What's the next layer up from Basic?
Yeah, so the free version, Plus is next. So when we're talking about the custom maps, Plus I think allows you to have 5. That might be up to 20. And the Pro is completely unlimited. There's also the export features. So for some of the shape files, KML, some of those features require the Plus and Pro. And there's also some support benefits too. So if you are calling into the support team, you're a Plus or Pro user, priority support so that you can get that in and out faster.
Yeah. And does a particular user get access to that desktop software that you spoke about? Or is that
you have to buy the desktop licenses completely separately, unfortunately.
No, not unfortunately. You got to make $1 somewhere. You're giving a lot away.
Yeah, the desktop software is really, really massive, amazing cartography software. But there's a trial for 2 weeks, so it's definitely worth checking out and playing around. You can open your maps right up in Photoshop and you can make roads different colors, change landscapes and terrains. And then you can get into more valuable things like overlaying weather data, voting information, animal migration patterns. Every kind of map you see on social media or in the world has to be made by someone. And they use our software.
Fantastic. Okay. What about, are there any specific app features that turn on when you upgrade from Plus and Pro? It might be testing you here, but you might not use it to the same capacity as some of us do. I thought there was a breadcrumb trailing feature that turned on with some of the upgrades.
Yes. I'm just going to the website here so I can make sure I'm giving you all the right information.
Cool.
The breadcrumbs, I'm not sure about that one.
I thought you could track your trail. Free version.
I know you can. I know you can.
Yeah, because it's
turn
already
it on.
available on
Free
the free
recording
version.
track.
Free, you can.
I thought there was
It asks you
another
to turn it
feature.
on. Yeah, it does. Yep.
I thought there was
There's
another
the
feature.
comparison.
Just whenever I use it, that's one of the first
I'll
prompts.
figure
Do you
it
want
out.
to turn it on?
Yeah,
turn on
I
your
wasn't
tracking.
sure whether it was a feature
Just
that
trying to get you to go
allowed you
there.
to say track me back and it followed your trail. I don't know. I'm just curious.
Well, that's record GPS tracks. That's already in there.
Yeah, but is
Yeah,
that,
because that's
can you
already
then,
in there.
Can you then push a button that tells you to track me home?
Oh,
Yeah, there is a backtrack on there. I'm sure of it.
yeah.
There is. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not
thought
sure
so.
what the breadcrumbs is.
I'm sure
Yeah, so
there's
if
a
I look
back.
now in the features, the only one that says Pro on it is plot GPS average. Otherwise, all the other
Okay.
settings are available.
Yep. Okay. So the basic nav features are all there.
Record
Yeah,
track,
definitely.
backtrack. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Well, then, since I've muddled that up a little bit, Mark talked a little bit earlier about the group of people that are only just learning the words potentially Avenza and Onyx, as we talked about them today, and some of them may know one brand over the other. It'd be worth diving into the freeware app functionality and just the use cases or the basic features that are in there for people to use. For plenty
Yeah,
of
for
people that will
sure.
hear this that don't know even what some of those are. Are you comfortable talking us through that?
Yeah, for sure. Once you install the app, you basically end up in a file folder, if you will. So you have a collection of files there, which is basically your maps. And if you don't have a map, you can go to the map store, which is located across the bottom. The map store will allow you to download maps, which then will be in your file folder library. And then you open the map, and if you are in a location that is on that map, you'll see your dot right away. If you're not on that map, it will tell you that you're not on that map, so it can't show you your geolocation, but you can still collect data on those maps if you choose to. And that's basically how you kind of open it and get into an app. I should give you a video demo that you can kind of insert here.
I was gonna hit you up for that
Yeah.
demo once we're finished, just so we can
Yeah.
supplement our discussion. Yeah.
Yeah, and once you open the app, you kind of think about it just like a compass. That's one of the tools that's right across the bottom is your compass. So you can get your bearings is usually the first thing you want to do, figure out what direction you're going, so orient yourself with the map, and then you can plot your points if you haven't already. So one of the nice features is you can plot your points on the map before you leave the house or before you leave for your trip. And so when you open the map, you could already have your points there and you can just say navigate to this point, and then it will give you that straight line navigation. So it's not road turn by turn navigation. It's just that straight bird or straight as the crow flies navigation. So it'll show you straight to where that point is. It'll tell you your distance calculations. It can do an estimated time based on the terrain, all kinds of that stuff. Then once you actually start walking, you can turn on your tracking and you'll see a line appear from where your start point is, and it will follow you all the way along to your final destination. And one of the nice features is the whole time you can kind of see your line that you're creating, and the straight line from one point to the other. So you kind of try to stay on track that way. If you do have a path that you've plotted, it can help you stay on there. You can use, there's a nice boundary feature. So you can tell the device that you want to stay within a certain number of meters from the trail or the path that you've placed, and your phone can actually alert you if you get too far off of that. So if you don't want to have your phone out with you all the time, It can kind of vibrate and let you know maybe you've gotten a little bit too far off the path. Or in the case of a hunter, you can do boundary boxes around the property that you're hunting. So again, you don't have to have your phone out all the time looking at the map. It can vibrate if you get too close to a boundary, so that you know that, you should take your map out and readjust your positioning, so that you don't go off into an area that you're not supposed to. And when you're walking and collecting your little trails, if you stop along the way and you take a picture, you can add that directly to the map. So you can add it as a place mark, and you can collect all kinds of data in there too. So you can collect regular types of data like altitude, GPS coordinates, but you can also collect any type of data. So there's just notes function, so you can just write down information, and anything that you need to collect, you can kind of turn into an attribute and add it, and then you can collect that as you go along. So if you're trying to plot a course and you know that you always want to stop at this spot for food, you can plot those locations. You can add symbol sets so that you even can distinguish what they are from looking at them without having to click on the place mark. And then you can save all of that. And the next time you want to go to that location, you can open it up and all that information is stored there. You can even challenge yourself against yourself, so you can see multiple lines. So if you do the same route over and over again, you can kind of compare distances and see what changes over time. I'd say that's probably the basics.
I was going to say, with the file store that you mentioned, when you've got the free version, you can only have the 3 custom maps.
Yes.
The way I've got around that is, so I've linked my Dropbox to my device.
Exactly.
And I store all my custom maps in Dropbox, and then I just add them to my device as and when needed. Obviously, you've got to have Signal to do that, but that's how I get around that one.
Yep, absolutely. You can just kind of swap them in and out. But yeah, like you said, you do have to have Signal to be able to do that.
Yeah, correct.
Look out for the blocking of Dropbox feature coming next.
Yeah.
No.
So
We're not worried
just had
about
them
the
loaded straight to
recreational
phone.
users.
I had it loaded straight to the phone.
Yeah, I
'cause
had it in the files on my phone.
I just swapped them out. Yeah.
Yeah, I got them on the cloud. It's just easier for me to upload and download.
I'm just looking. The private land access I have is not mapped, unfortunately. I'm just looking right now.
Yeah, but you can get the topographic maps from.
Yeah, I'm
Australia.
just looking at the topos. There isn't a topo one on the map store for that area, because I just typed in the name and then it said look at nearby maps, and it blows out and it shows all the nearby maps. And unfortunately, there isn't a nearby map that covers off on that area.
You can get it from the
athenaspatial.com.au.
There we go, from Rob.
Our
I could ask Rod to make me up one. Yeah, that's not really a problem at all.
Cool. All right. Any other questions about the features in the basic version?
No. I think we've gone from what's this thing we have to holy moly, I've got this thing in my pocket all of a sudden that can do all this really cool stuff. So I think it's been a real jump.
Mark. Yeah, you mentioned, Mark, earlier about using different maps and having to switch from one to the other. So there's a new feature that we're working on that actually does use open street source data. So the idea is we have a base map that will basically help join maps. So if you are in between 2 maps and there isn't a map, the base maps will kind of fill that in enough for you to know kind of where you're going or how the maps are connected. So that's kind of something that's coming. It's in the works, but yeah,
that's interesting, isn't it? So so from
family
dog. That's the dog.
There's your dog.
Yeah,
to go out,
but the
built-in swim in the
walk
lake.
time. But the base maps kind of partnering with the custom maps, I think, is a really, really powerful tool. So you can still have all of that information, but a little bit more security of having that backup of just, your kind of Google Maps version of things where it's just, that's the world, this is where I am.
Yeah. Very true, because we do a lot of road tripping, and when you get, to a certain place, your maps become more suggestive than accurate.
Yeah.
it's over that way somewhere. You'll be fine, type of thing. In fact, when I went down to that property I hunted with Joe from DPI last February, there was about a 50k shortcut that I just could not find on a map, but it was there.
It was there.
It was there. It did the job, but yeah. So that's what I'm kind of interested in, that more expansive, because we do lots of family road trips, and I'm thinking about what's next in terms of mapping for the vehicle.
Absolutely, yeah. And there is definitely plans for Apple and Android CarPlay connectivity at some point. So
that would be on my feature request.
Whoa.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
Whoa.
That's what you do. You just do. I'd have that. Oh, yeah, that was it. If we could,
yeah, that's a popular one.
if it could
I bet it
integrate
is.
with that, that would be
I have to
fantastic.
upgrade my car
That's it.
just to get
Just
this.
get that. Yeah, get yourself a
Well, you raised it. Feature development. You've thrown 2 little carrots out there now. What else is on the list? Tell us some secrets that we won't tell anyone else.
Those are the big ones: the base maps and the Apple CarPlay and Android CarPlay, hopefully coming eventually. Yeah, those are some of the bigger ones. A lot of UX updates is really what is you're going to see. So little changes that just make using the app just a little bit easier, a little bit more streamlined. I know there's plans to really help with the first couple of steps. So when you enter into the app, and right now you're kind of in that file folder, so changing like those kind of things, so more of that user experience, and potentially in the future even segmenting user experience by what you're trying to do. So having maybe a different kind of face or features in different places for hunters versus hikers versus forestry workers, developing to make the app a little more specific for all the use cases that we have. But we're always open to more feature suggestions. So please, reach out to us on social or just email us, and we would love to hear any ideas.
Awesome.
Just looking through the categories, you've got nautical maps.
Yes,
Walmart.
Nautical and aviation are some of the most interesting ones. Yeah, aviation apparently is a big area because that's one of the ones that Google and Apple hasn't mapped yet. So
yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, welcome
planes
aboard.
flying around
Welcome
the
aboard,
sky.
flight.
Nothing's-
We'll be using Google Maps to get you to to London today. So
All right. Hey, one other question I have. Have you had a look at the Australian user base numbers?
yeah, absolutely. Australia is
about
like our
those.
third
Yeah.
biggest market.
Third.
Yeah.
We can do
Wow.
better.
Third.
We can do
Wow.
better. We can do better.
Okay.
No,
Outside of
it's
the US and Canada.
yeah, after the US and Canada. I think there's a lot of reasons why that is. I think it's pretty straightforward that there's a lot of similarities between Australia and Canada, being that we're very large geographical areas that have very dispersed populations. So there's a lot of areas of the country that don't have a ton of people living in them and maybe need mapping and GPS offline mapping kind of capabilities. So I think when the teams were kind of exploring where to reach out into the world, Australia was one that made a lot of sense for us. So we've done a lot over there. And I think one of the other reasons that Australia is such a big market is just because it's outdoors. Australians love to be outdoors, and it's kind of the same with Canadians and a lot of Americans as well. So when you want to be outdoors, there's naturally always that next step of keeping that safe. And, that's really what Avenza Maps is about. It's about providing the most accurate maps possible and the most accurate mapping and GPS technology so that people stay safe. And if you do get yourself into a situation where you need help, you can also use your GPS technology to extremely accurately convey your location to emergency responders. We have a number of stories of users getting lost, and the only reason that they knew where they were was because they had their Avenza Maps app, and they could give the emergency responders the exact GPS coordinates of where they were, and they were able to get help. So that's why I think a lot of the reasons why I think that Australia is probably, well, it is the third biggest market, and I think one of the ones that we find a lot of future in as well.
I'm
It's
just
good to hear.
looking at all the local ones. There is actually plenty of local ones. There's obviously they were mapped for an ultra trail run. So
Yeah, a lot of
they must have been using that in their
yeah,
competition, because all around me
yeah,
is the leg 1, leg 2, leg 3, leg 4, and stuff like that.
yeah. And a lot of them do make it mandatory for them to have cell phones
So
and
yeah,
GPS devices. So
if
we have a
if you've
number of those ones.
if you've got it through DPI, it's probably just worth your while jumping on and seeing what you've been missing out on, type thing. What you've
Yeah.
what you've been carrying around in your pocket for a couple of years, and what's available to you. Because there's Newham Creek,
Yeah.
Mount the
And we're
Ankles
always
there.
looking for new publishers. So
Yeah.
it's an ongoing adventure.
These are
It's interesting. There's new publishers coming up every day.
That's awesome.
These are all Department of Resource ones, so they must be moving their maps slowly, their topos on this slowly.
Yeah. Another feature question, Jono, you might be able to answer this. I've never actually checked it. In the navigation section of the main section of the device when you're using it, can you push data to wearables, to watches?
No,
I don't think so.
Wearables.
No.
Put that on your list.
No.
So a lot of
Feature requests,
like when
wearables.
we're moving from Garmin devices to at the moment, if you're wearing an Apple Watch or you're wearing a Garmin device or whatever, you get your messages that pop up on your push messages from the app. Aren't a silly idea.
Yeah, so
Gives you direction points and things like
there
that.
will be notifications that might go on your watch, but it wouldn't be I don't think it will be as
get
accurate
guidance.
as the directions. Yeah.
No.
It would just
No.
tell you to check your phone.
Yeah, you'd be able to get the notifications. If the app is
Yeah.
giving you a notification, you'd be able to get that on the watch. But yeah, not guidance, because the watch has got a built-in GPS that it'll be using itself. So
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I'm question tapped out. Who's next? You're 1/3 of the way through this now, Chelsey. No, I'm just kidding.
I was looking on the website, and you actually run a map contest. That looks pretty cool. There's some amazing maps in that. That's really
Yeah,
getting
we
the community
do.
involved.
We run a map contest every year. So traditionally, because of the background with the cartography software, we love to see what maps people create with that software. So every year we host a map contest, and people just show us what they've been making over the past year, and it's incredible. We get entries from physical maps, people who are making maps for work, subways maps, and then we have a whole collection of maps from people who are making pretend maps or imaginary maps, which is kind of hard to picture. But the way that I explain it is, if you read a book, so let's say Harry Potter, and you want a map of Hogwarts, you can make that map with our software, even though it doesn't exist. So a lot of authors actually will hire cartographers to make maps of these fictional areas, because they want their users to be able to, visualize where Westeros is or whatever. And so a real cartographer will make these maps. And so we've even gotten some of those maps handed in the contest. And yeah, map making is definitely really, really diverse, and it's not what I thought it was when I first started working for Avenza. It's been one of the best parts of working here, is learning how maps are actually involved in everything in all of our daily lives, to the point where go on social media, scroll through a couple of posts, and you'll probably see a graphic that was created with a map, whether it's voting patterns, temperature changes, locations of shopping malls across the country, anything like that. There's so much content like that that's being created now. So the map contest is a really interesting way to see what people are doing with our software and the different ways that they're using it.
You see these T-shirts that come around every now and then of the way the hiker dies. He's got his head in his phone as he walks across a cliff. I just had this mental picture of a user walking into the brick wall on platform 9 3/4, looking at it as a Avenza map, because you've directed them now to the platform entry.
Oh my god, I love that. Yes.
Well, I was actually thinking we could do a Yowie sighting in Pilliga.
Yeah,
we could do a Yowie sighting.
Pilliga Princess.
Now that's right. So Chelsey, the Yowie is basically Bigfoot.
Yeah, our
Okay.
version.
Australian Bigfoot.
So one of the forests that we hunt, and that my personal favourite is it's huge. It's often described as 1,000,000 wild acres, and it's also one of the ones that has a lot of stories about being haunted and things like that. So there's a ghost called the Pilliga Princess who haunts it, which was
Okay.
I think she was a jilted lover or something like that. She haunts it, and
Always
and
is.
something like that, and the Yowie, which is Bigfoot basically, which is
It's got a different accent.
And there was also Australia's first mass murderer, Jimmy Governor, hid out there during when they were chasing him. So it's got a place that's got lots of there's stories around it and stuff like that.
That would be a good place to hide.
And it's been a working forest for over 100 years. So they pull timber out of there. So there's lots of, when you go through there, you find infrastructure. You'll find windmills and you'll find these really, really weird things all the place. In fact, so it's kind of known for that. So I reckon we could do the Hunters Campfire.
The Yowie hunt.
What you saw in Pilliga map type of thing. So the Yowie here, the princess here, and even like
And a dot matrix
real
printer over
things.
there.
Like I was there when I saw the Hemu Creek run for the first time from a number of years. I think Ian, you had a similar thing. The creek's a sand creek, and it's called a creek. It's quite wide actually, and it's a sand creek. So most of the time there's no water in it, but when it floods, it becomes quite a torrent very quickly. And so there's all sorts of. I think it'd be really cool to actually start dropping those things
Populating
into
a feature map.
So even like
Once you
here's that
start
windmill.
thinking about it, the
Never-ending.
possibilities are endless.
Yeah. Because, we get a lot of questions about, what are these things or what are that, and that would be a really, and also another good way of locating those things.
Definitely.
Yeah, well, I've certainly we've been talking again to Rob at Athena, who started making these maps for State Forest, and we mentioned earlier that the DPI maps, they serve a purpose, but they update them every quarter to change boundaries and bits and pieces that you allowed the access. Having a high definition base map that you can work on and populate and add features. Now, I know you can take the features from one and put them on another, but it really gives you some pretty cool tools to be able to build out over time a really interesting feature-rich map to share with people. So look forward to having a crack at that. Yeah.
And especially when you guys are hunting the same areas for years after years, like it's perfect for something like that because you're collecting data on the same map. So you can compare locations, how far things have moved.
Yeah, even things like, campsites and things like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The good, different types of campsites and different times of year. As I said, and there's all those quite interesting things that you do discover when you're moving through the scrub. So, I remember once we found these shallow slit trenches that had timber over the top of them in the Pilliga, and we couldn't figure out what they were, and we found out that they were water supplies for bees. So the beekeepers would dig these a long trench, but not very wide, and put timber on top of it, boards. The bees could get through the boards to get to the water, but no animal would come and drink the water. So
That's brilliant.
They were what is that? To what purpose does that slit trench with a bit of timber over the top serve? And you kind of went, what is it? And it's found out. So because Pilliga there's a lot of beekeepers in the Pilliga, so you find the hives all the time. The setups, and that's what it was. They were
amazing.
Basically water slit trenches to keep allow the bees to keep watering. Those kind of things would be fantastic to have on a map when you're looking around.
Yeah, definitely.
I think we're kind of coming to a close.
I think so.
Come to a natural end. No more questions, Jono?
No, I'm all good. Thank you.
Thank
you very much.
That was awesome.
Amazing.
Everyone's
So
thinking that's the
great.
trouble. We're all now thinking,
That's happened sometimes, doesn't it? They're all like, all right, well, we'll wrap
please,
it up
if it's
there.
any feature requests or if anyone has any more If there is an area where people are and they are not finding maps on our map store, let us know. If you know publishers who you think would benefit from the map store, we're happy to reach out to them. Yeah, and that's a part of what we do always, is just constantly growing the publishers and making sure that we have as many people as possible with the best maps. So yeah, feel free to reach out if anyone ever has any ideas.
Yeah, what's the best way to do that, Chelsey?
Yeah, info@avenza.com. Keep it easy. Just reach out. You can email us there. Any of our social media platforms, of course, just at Avenza Maps. And we'll monitor all of those too.
Yeah, you've got some great content on those. I've been watching them quite closely. The
Oh,
things that
thank
are coming
you.
out. I'm really keen to see some Australian-based content hit that as well. So maybe we can help you out with some of that.
Definitely.
We'll see how we go.
Yeah, we
But,
do. We do have an Avenza UC. So our Avenza user conference is coming up in May, on May 9th. It's completely free to register. It's an online live conference, but we are actually featuring, I guess they are more Tasmania or New, yeah. So I'm not sure, that's not really the same as you guys, but we have some explorers who used our app to help find historical trails in Tasmania. So it was pretty cool. So they're going to be doing a presentation on May 9th at our Avenza UC. So you can check that out.
Well, that's
I
cool.
do have
Well,
one
Tasmania,
question.
we still classify them as part of Australia, so they're part of our listener group as well. We do reach that far. They do have internet, although only just probably.
And Ian now isolates a whole chunk of the country.
Yeah, that's right. Goodbye.
So I do have a question. It's popped
Of
up.
course.
So when I click request a map, what happens?
Request a map on the on the website. So yeah, it'll send. So it should open up a email, and then you should be able to email the map store team.
And who responds to that request? Is it
someone,
do they kind of go, yeah, no, we don't need that, or do they say?
Oh no, it'll be someone on our map store team. So there's two map store mapping experts, and so they're usually the ones that are looking out for which area of the world we don't have enough coverage of, and if there are new maps and publishers, they're usually the ones who are analyzing that kind of stuff. So. But yeah, absolutely. Our map store team will reach out.
Oh, good. There you go.
What a service.
Awesome.
That kind of answers a lot of questions. I'll just ask.
Just
there
ask.
you go.
All right. We'll leave it there.
Receive.
People, thank you very much, Chelsey, for joining us. I think that's been amazing. Listeners are going to love it. They're going to dive back into that app and try and figure out what they don't know. So we really appreciate that. Love to stay in contact. I will share some features that we think might be really useful. And yeah, I just think we've opened another world up, especially with connecting some of our friends to the app store and the publishing of and all of those sorts of things. So I think it's been brilliant.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chelsey.
Okay. Good to talk to you again.
See ya.